Blessed love to each and every one. We definitely give thanks to the life giver and the keeper of life, Emperor Haile Selassie I. We give thanks to each and every one that is definitely in tune with us, even at this moment. It is joy and happiness that we are sharing. Blessed love, oneness, and unity. And of course, this is the moment where we come together right here on Radio Anu. This is the Tiger's Nest. And of course, this is the moment where we carry it to another level. The Honorable Priest Isaac here with you. Definitely your humble host for this moment. Keep in mind that this is the international flavor. Keep in mind that this is the universal spice. And of course, PriestIsaacInstitute.com is where you find this radio station. PriestIsaacInstitute.com. So I'm just inviting you to share the link with your friend, share the link with your brothers and sisters, and let them know we are going to have a wonderful and exciting program tonight on the Tiger's Nest. We are going to be talking about Haile Selassie. We're going to be talking about Haile Selassie's link with the 16 crucified saviors. Family, this is going to be something that you definitely don't want to miss. So make sure you inform a friend, and make sure you inform a companion, and make sure that we are definitely here to carry this thing to another level. Also, let me just make sure everyone understand that this is a program that comes to you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 7 p.m. sharp, right here on Radio Anu. Blessed love, I am the Honorable Priest Isaac. I am an official priest within the realms of Rastafari of the Ethiopia-Africa Black International Congress. I also hold a certification in the craft of Astronomy from Politecnico di Milano in Italy. Our universe and its makeup has always been an intriguing subject for humankind. Astronomy is the study of everything in the universe beyond the Earth's atmosphere. Ancient astronomy is similar, but pays special attention to the physical and spiritual values of stars, planets, moons, and other celestial objects. It also brings in the terrestrial component, being things on an earthly plane, such as plants, human organs, and connects them to the heavenly bodies. In this course, you will learn the makeup of various planets and stars, how to locate them in the night sky, along with their associated constellations. You will also be taught about the earliest civilizations known for their astronomical comprehension, namely Kush, also known as ancient Ethiopia, Kemet, called Egypt today, the Dogons, and the Bozos, as well as the civilization of Sumer. You will also learn about black holes, their nature and origin, as well as how the ancients viewed them. Ancient astronomy is the mother of archaeoastronomy and astrotheology. Both subject areas are covered by the Priest Isaac's Institute of Holistic Knowledge. Sign up today. Visit our website, PriestIsaacInstitute.com, or email us, PriestIsaacInstitute@gmail.com, for more information.
Are you searching for unique handmade Black cultural crafts, t-shirts, and accessories? Look no further. Introducing your ultimate destination for the vibrant and captivating creations that celebrate Rastafari and African culture. At Black Dominion, we bring you a curated collection of exquisitely designed, crafted products honoring the rich heritage of Rastafari, Ethiopia, and the Black diaspora. With our user-friendly website, shopping is a breeze. We ship worldwide, bringing Black culture to every corner of the globe. Visit www.blackdominion.shop today and start exploring the incredible range of handmade Rastafari and Black culture. Find your inspiration, embrace your roots, and stand out from the crowd.
Oh, definitely give thanks. Of course, blessing the one brother, Corey Harris, Prophet Corey Harris, talking about blackdominion.com, where you can get, as you heard, the wonderful voice just said there a moment ago. I definitely got to get that voice to do some ads for me. Yeah, of course, you know, you can definitely get your guidances and your hoodies and your mugs and your cups. Nobody mugging you now, but your cups, your teacups, and all the good stuff here. I'm talking about Black Dominion. Go and check out their catalog. Wonderful shoes and socks, and I mean almost anything that you want with a conscious word and a conscious expression. You get it from Black Dominion. You know, remember, you can get your chalices there, you can get your chalices here, you know, for sure. And of course, it's all, you know, give thanks to the man, Prophet Jah Daniel, as well. So beautiful. Give thanks again for all those who are in tune with us. Remember, this is Radio Anu, the international flavor, the universal spice. And for those who are coming in, let me just remind you that this is the Tiger's Nest, a program that comes to every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. You should make sure you put that in your calendar of things to do. Every evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Caribbean time, which is Eastern Standard Time, at least for now, until daylight saving time does its little trick. For this moment here, you definitely catch us 7 p.m. It's always Eastern Caribbean time, by the way, but depending on the time of the year, it turns to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But anyway, the Tiger's Nest, Radio Anu. You should always be in tune to Radio Anu, and you'll be always getting the international flavor, the universal spice. Wow, my brother, I can't listen every night because I got to do this, that, and the third. That's all right. We have made provisions for people like you. All you got to do is contact us and let us know, well, listen, brother, I would like to make sure I get a copy of this program every evening, because I listen to a few, and I'm telling you, I just want to make sure I'm in tune. No problem. All you got to do is to become a subscriber, and that's a very simple thing. Just email us and let us know you want to become a subscriber, and of course we will take it from there. Very, very good. The reasoning I want to put down this evening, I know, judging from maybe just the title, you know, a person may think they know where we're going. And I must say, you may be correct to some degree. You know why? Because we would have been reasoning on these subject areas for years, different ways and different levels, you know, especially when it's time of the Lent and these things. So the understanding of the world's 16 crucified saviors and my outlook as it relates to Emperor Haile Selassie I and all of these saviors being archetypes as such to the coming emperor, I think all of that is well understood, especially, as they say, by the choir. But yet still, I think I want to bridge a gap tonight, because we are stepping up into the full university level. You know, I always have to highlight, welcome to the House of Priests. You know, I always have to highlight Rasta Round Table. You know, I always have to, you know, encourage ones to stay tuned to these programs, where you hear the different levels of intellect coming out. And when I say bridge the gap, remember this whole allegorical talk. Almost everywhere you go now, you hear people say, well, the allegory and allegory and allegory. I'm not saying anything like, you know, to make it sound like it's me, you know, but I know a few people that have told me that the first time they ever hear the word allegory was from me. Now, I'm just saying that to say that putting allegory, metaphor, and the esoteric understanding into the doctrine has been something that has fueled us from basically the time we started to spread the word. Allegory. We've always had a strong appreciation for symbolic writings and symbolism in general, architecture. That is why we became so in tune with the heavens, the chief symbolic expression. So allegory now, again, and esoteric writings and esoteric, very deeply scientific expressions are to me, the key ways to express the reality of God and the universe and life and these different things. Very good. So we would have taken our time, I think, and gone into the importance of myth. We went as far as to bring up Anansi, to show that even our African tradition, and this is very important, even before we go forward, our African tradition, those of you who were with us previous night, as they call it last night. Now we are streaming on the YouTube right now, family. Of course, this is Radio Anu, and this is an exclusive Radio Anu program, but we are streaming on the YouTube tonight. Previous night, we wouldn't have been on that platform. And we were talking about Rastafari in the ancient African dance of the different tribes, I should say. And the good Professor Pathisa clearly showed us that every African traditional dance is connected to the cosmos, connected to the movement of the heavens. This was his words to us. Now, this is very, very interesting, you know, when you really understand and comprehend, you know, how many African traditional dances you have. I think last night we worked out this going almost into the hundreds of thousands. And all of these dances, not just the Dogons, not just this ancient tribe of West Africa that can see serious beat. Yes, we are happy we learned that. But let's advance now. What the Dogons do, all of us do. The Shona people do. The Gala people do. The Akan people do. The Igbo people do. The Hausa people do. The everybody do. Ifa and Yoruba, everyone in their dance, in their expression, in their rhythmic movement, they're actually replicating the movement of the astronomical clock. This is what the good professor was teaching us previous night. Beautiful, 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 wonderful program. So again, I'm just highlighting how we as Africans express our history, our mythology, and our theology, etc. Now, there's a saying or phrase or you know, I don't know what to call it, that I always repeat. And I think what we did last night was to home in or narrow in on one of the aspects of this cliche phrase, whatever you want to call it, that I always say. And this is it. If you notice, I always say that we as African people, we express our history, we express our religion, we express our well, theology, basically almost the same to some degree. We express our culture. We express our morals. All of these things. Remember, even history is in this. We express all of these things and other things by the way of dancing, music with singing, music without any singing, without anybody singing, no words, just the instrument, whether it's drums or the car or something else. We express all the above by artistry. And of course, music is an art, but you know what I mean, painting and drawings. We express it with the spoken word, as the griot does. And just like most people, we express it in writing. We also express it using the theater. That's us as African people. So we utilize all of these methods to express all of these different avenues of understanding, religion, history. We express our history in dancing. So we'll be dancing for you. Nobody's speaking, and we're telling you centuries worth of history. Who are these people here? We will be dancing for you and explaining to you how to prepare a meal. Haven't you heard Idi Amin say that on the video, the documentary, what's the name of it? Autobiography or something of the sort of Idi Amin. He said the dance, it teach you how to clean and keep the yard clean and how to make the villa proper, bathroom facility. Idi Amin said the dance teach you all of that. Maybe that's why they say he's a buffoon, because they don't understand what he's talking about. So all of that is expressed in dance. We as Africans, that's us. So I'm using that just to come back again to the whole concept of us expressing ourselves using mythology. We are the origin of that. Not Greece mythology, Greek mythology. When you say mythology, somehow it goes straight back to Greece. No, man. We are the first to express the esoteric writings. And it's not just mythology, no, it's deep science we are expressing. So again, when you see King Anansi weaving his web over the planet Earth, the web represents the grid of the earth, the same telluric energy that is underneath the surface of the earth that connects monuments and structures and pyramids and mosques and churches and parliaments. I mean, in recent time, because they know the grid line and they put their stuff in the line between the Pyramid of Giza and the Pyramid of the Sun in Central America. Yeah, believe me. Get them up and get a geometry set and I can show you what's going on. So the point is that the natural energy that governs the earth in a spiritual realms is actually portrayed in artistic form as a spider, Anansi, covering the earth with a web. Now you could say that is in kindergarten form, but yet still it is expressing an extremely deep scientific understanding. Now I hope we could use that example and move on in this discussion. So now, when you speak of the world's 16 crucified saviors, and of course, this title has become almost a household phrase because of the book written by one Kersey Graves. And what the book basically says, we're not going to come and try to read the book. it highlights 16 characters that are considered, at least by the writer, to be of mythological origin. So he would speak of Krishna, he would speak of Horus. He, of course, goes into the Jesus character. He highlights even the ancient god of Kemet and Asar and these ones, you know, Mithra and these ones. You have Ahura Mazda, you have different gods. It's more than 16, you know, of course. But I just found that this very popular book, because it's a very popular book. It's a very, very popular book. It has been out for a while. And I think more than any other book, not because of its detail or because it's more scholarly than any other book, but maybe just because of its popularity, more than any other book, it brought proper attention to the understanding that the Jesus story, you listening to me? That the Jesus story has is similar to many other stories that happen to be older than the Jesus story. We don't usually say Jesus that much, you know, so yeah. So the story of this Serapis character who was morphed into the name I just mentioned prior to his existence. So let's just say he's around 4 or so BCE, because that's when they say he was born, 4 BCE. He was born 4 BC, which is 4 years before Christ. That is when he was born, 4 BC, before Christ. He born 4 years before Christ. What are you talking about? Person that they call Christ. Oh, when he born? 4 years before Christ. How that work? Listen. I tell you how these people drop it, you know. He must be the Antichrist, maybe the real Christ born 4 years after him. But anyway, let's just stick to the topic for now. So all of these different, no, I jump in the gun. No, we ain't jumping no gun. What are you talking about? We don't jump gun around here, buddy. You crazy? Yeah, I'm sure them phrases. We're going ahead of ourselves here. Yes. So they are the story of Mithra, the story of, you know, okay, Asar, Heru, Krishna, and other characters that you find in the mythological world. According to Mr. Graves, and an obvious observation, all of these characters go through a similar story. So all of them were born by a virgin. All of them were baptized by a forerunner. They all, if not all, most of them were considered to have been born on the 25th day of December. All of this is highlighted in his book. All of them, if not all, had 12 followers. All of these saviors from A to Z, all before Mr. G or J or however it's, they gotta be G, because that's how it's spelled Jesus, you know, G-E-E-Z-U-S. All of them would have walked on water. Hear this, all of them were crucified. All of them died. All of them rose up on the 3rd day. So wait, who them people here? Well, in the modern English, who are these ones? You know, that they could do the same thing as the great Messiah, because this is why he is the Messiah, you know, because he was born from a virgin. Ask any Christian. Because he died and resurrected. I never forget a time a good while ago, maybe at least a good 20-something years ago, on a radio program. This brother was on a radio program. I don't know who he was, seemed to be some sort of New Age Christian. And he was saying something about when they crucified Jesus, that he never really died. I mean, I know that theory. Anyone who's in consciousness knows that theory, whether you agree with it or not. But he never died. Either he pretend he was dead or but the spirit, some kind of high vibes he was expressing to the host. Listen, a granny calling, and make he know, listen, sonny, let me explain this to you. If you do not believe, man, I never forget that. I was cooking in the kitchen. If you do not believe that, and she explained what she explained, that the big man there died and was crucified and put in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights. She went through the whole shebang. She let partner know this sleeping thing and inner coma thing, that not working here. If you don't believe the full story, you're not no Christian. I said, wow, hear that. Old granny knocking about there, man. One of them Mike Tyson, you know, knockout. Yeah. So anyway, what I'm saying is that within the understanding I'm showing you now, family, is this, that most of us came into a world where we received Christian names, where we got a Christian, we were christened then. And we live in this supposedly sort of somewhat Christian, they say, environment around us. All right, so they say all Freemasonry, really. Now, so we have been indoctrinated to believe that a person 2,000 years ago is our Lord and Savior. Or rather worse, they portray him like them. Who's them? I talking about the enslaver, Rasta. Oh, in fact, it's the enslaver paid the picture of the cousin and say, well, this is the person for you to worship. So we've been Sunday school, we've been to church, even in school, the school. They indoctrinate you with this stuff. That is why some of us, not us really, but that's why some ones are quick to jump like tied dogs when someone even mentioned that, hey, do you know that this story is older than even the Bible? You don't want to even listen to any scholarly conversation. You are ready, swords drawn right away, in ignorance, obviously. When science, archaeology, the same stuff that many of us save our hard-earned money to send our little children to these universities far away so that they can call every night and say, Mommy and Daddy, okay? Yeah, we send them. We spend all the money. We don't care where we get it, and say, hey, go and get the education. Some of them go and study archaeology. Some of them go and study anthropology. So as much as you may believe that Adam and Eve is the first two, and they were 6,000 years ago, when your little daughter comes home with a PhD in anthropology and tell you, Mommy, the oldest real human being, Homo sapiens sapien, like me and you, is about 300,000 years old. Oh, no, that is impossible. Get the Bible, Sam, bring it for her. She's lost her mind. These people at Harvard did something to her. Of course they did something to her. They gave her an education. Yeah. No, hold on, Mommy. There's older than that. We can go 4 million years back to Homo sapien. Take it easy. Hush your mouth. Yeah, that's what religion does. Listen, family, this ain't no joke, I can clearly remember. It may not be so today. Everyone knows, I say it all the time, I was born 1976. I can clearly remember when heaven was up in the sky. You hear me? And hell was underneath this ground that we all walk on. I'm not playing around with us. That you couldn't even tell your parents that wasn't so. Some of you know what I'm talking about. You see, the reason why I'm saying it so is because today, although it still kind of exists somewhere in the mind of some people, you know, that sort of things, you know, but we have morphed into a bit more of an intellectual phase. So even those who are still lost in certain doctrines know that, listen, you know, it's not exactly that. Yeah, you reason to a Christian today. Is heaven in the sky? Well, I don't know if it's in the sky really, you know, but it is a place set aside. All right. Believe me, that's a different conversation than when I was young. You ask anybody, heaven in the sky? Of course, way up there. Jesus, when he went up, read the Bible, the disciples said they watch him went up, and hell under the ground is right below our feet. There's fire burning down there. Yeah. I'm just trying to show you. Remember, we did a program just the other evening, you know, when I explained that this is 189 years after the emancipation of slavery. As I showed you, when I was born in the year when it was 142 years after the emancipation of slavery. Look, I just bring it into my business and bring it into my house. I'm a family businessman. My father had me when he was 50. When he born, it was the 92nd year since the emancipation of slavery. The emancipation of slavery. Not 100 years. Still had a good 8 years before you hit a century. What kind of condition could these people have been in at that time when he was born? My father, not my grandfather. So what's happening in my existence is that I am witnessing the changing of the gears and the changing of the time. I can clearly remember, although it was very, 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 I was in a very young state. I gotta be 2, 3 years old before I could recollect seeing a woman in her pants. Now, if you see a woman in a dress today, you admire her. Say, wow, she has on a dress. I mean, when I was 5 years old, if a girl had on a purple wig and a miniskirt, she would have been arrested. Today, if you don't move like that, people think you are strange. So I would have clearly seen, I haven't even gone half a century yet, and I've clearly seen a serious change. So I'm returning to my points. That's how we do it on the Tiger's Nest. It may appear as if we gone somewhere else. Yeah, we gone somewhere else, so we can bring back the point to you. It's all right, we have time. Once you have the time, we have the time. So again, heaven was in the sky. You better believe that. Preachers, I'm telling you. Remember, you couldn't have locks in church. You could not have locks. You could not even plait your hair. Now the preacher have locks. The preacher here plait. I have a good a brethren of mine. He is a minister. Pastor Matthew Noyce. Strictly plait hair he run. We're around the same age. Went to similar schools as such, so we kind of not grew up together, but we know each other. So he know for sure. He couldn't even go into the church with that plait here. A good lesson for you, family, especially the young minds. coming in. Right. So, again, how things would have changed. So the young minds hold on to science. You're a historian. As a historian, you travel. You and the archaeologists travel together. You go into the temples in Iran. You go into the temples in Petra. You go into the temples in Zimbabwe, Kemet, and wherever you find ruins, you see the statues of a Pedimek. You look at the glyphs of Asar and Kepra. And when you observe the stories, you look at the Rosetta Stone and you start to learn the glyph. And when you read the story, you understand Heru was born from a virgin. Heru, seen as the lamb, the lion, the death and the resurrection of. Now, family, let me just encourage ones. Before you take even what you're hearing here and run with it, if you want to explain it, study it. If you want to explain it, study it. Because all 16 crucified saviors and the other saviors as well, the stories are not exactly the same. So when you just speak and say, oh yeah, man, they all were born on the 25th day of December. Some of them were not even born. Mithra was said to have come out of a rock. It may not mean he wasn't born from a virgin. It may be how you interpret it. But I'm just trying to show you that symbolism is a very serious subject. So we're not just here playing ping pong with it. I would encourage you, if you think you want to express this to another audience, study it properly. Because the hour and a half or whatever we're going to give here wasn't designed to detail. In fact, we would have done programs where we detail. They're more like webinars. You go on our website and go into the shop area. You see a lot of the webinars we would have done, which would have detail, a lot of the things, we just kind of cover on a radio program. A radio program is different than a webinar, family. That's why we always encourage you to check our website and check our webinars. We've done webinars on some of these subjects and in detail, fine detail, our documentaries. How many of you have a copy of The Night of the Black Tiger? This is Marcus Messiah Garvey's Earth Day. That is something that you should have. Treat yourself to The Night of the Black Tiger. Your little children will love it. It's exciting. It's not a webinar. It's not a lecture. It's not a YouTube episode nor a Tiger's Nest radio program. It's a documentary. Lightning and thunder and surround sound. Plug in the Bose speaker and get the popcorn and sit back. You'll have a fun time watching The Night of the Black Tiger for Marcus Messiah Garvey's Earth Day. That is our third full-length DVD documentary. So, but the main point is that all of these crucified saviors were in one way or the other crucified. Not all on a cross neither, although the author of the book may say 16 crucified. Cruci is crucifix and cross. They didn't all go down like that. But the symbolism is still the same, that they all came to their supposed demise, because they are resurrected, so it's not technically a demise, but they did die in the story. But because they all resurrected, you wouldn't maybe call it a demise because they came back. So again, they're more than 16. This is why just in Kemet alone, and Ra and Heru and Asar and Kepra and Kanu and Amun and Tahuti and Anpu and most of these principles have similar principles to the other crucified saviors that we have mentioned thus far. So why is this? What is this all about? Where is all of this mix-up coming from? It's not really mix-up at all. It's just understanding the pattern of history. One of the main things you need to do is to understand of all these stories, you know, of all these traditions, which one is the oldest? You may be surprised. It is not Kemet or anything around there. It's the stars. It's the heavens. It began with the stars. Haile Selassie definitely sealed a certain age from the stars to Haile Selassie. All this other stuff is in between. Listen, family, I really want to hit a button tonight. I want to hit a certain note. I want to touch a specific spot tonight. Yeah, when it comes to understanding this esoteric, allegorical vibration that we always talking about. Haile Selassie the first, Rastafari. So, again, which one is the oldest? The heavens. You see what happens in the heavens, family. As Brother Saifa Selassie would have been expressing to us how the astronomical clock perfectly aligns with key aspects of history that we consider very important. So he was using the astronomical clock to literally prove that there are aspects of history that ones are questioning, and he can verify that they are valid in all forms by using the movements of the heavens. Now, whether you agree with his maths or not, that is a reality. That is exactly how it goes. The heavens declare the glory. So even the book that says the heavens declare the glory, its glory is coming from the heavens. It's a solar book, a solar book, the Helios, which means the solar, the halo, the sun book, Biblios book, the Holy Bible. That is why it is speaking about the Son of God. I think we all know this. Now, this is the zeitgeist kind of prep school level of this. No disrespect, that's what it is. You see the reflection of the sun on the sea. It's like the sun walking on the water. We know that. We see the sun rise in the morning. With the clouds of the heavens, and all behold the sun. The Bible says that. The Son of Man shall come, and all shall behold the sun. S-U-N-S-O-N. You don't know how it goes. And his crown shall be on his heavens, you know, on his head, of course, his heavens, his head. You know, and that's the rays sticking out. Yeah, that's the sun. And the same sun shall grow old and eventually die and set in the western sky and disappear. Wow. And darkness shall cover the earth. All of that is the natural movements of the heavens on a very simple level. And you can see within that. And then when you go on the levels of the zodiac, you can see within that the whole archetype expression of Christ and the 12 disciples, the sun and what is considered the 12 zodiac bells, constellations. And the sun setting now would represent that death, darkness. And then the sun rising again in the morning now represents rebirth or the resurrection of the sun, S-U-N. And this is why, again, the most ancient of these practices, at least on planet Earth, which is in Africa, more so Northeast Africa, not necessarily just Kemet, you know, Smite Tawi. I'm talking about ancient Cushion and all as far down as South Africa, Azania. You find this ancient tradition, you find the tradition of the Ankh. So when you see Heru, one of the oldest known deities, you see Heru with the sun, you know, upon his head. You see Heru moving with the sun. It's not just Heru alone. Many of the ancient Kemetic principles, you see them carrying the sun. So it's Heru or Ra, moving with the sun, Sokar, moving with the sun, the Kep Ra, moving with the sun upon its head. And you will observe now that the other traditions of the earth, where you see the individual carrying the sun, you would see the sun behind of them, more so as an halo. So again, before we go to the depths of that, the different crucified saviors again, the different saviors in general, the main point is that you see a similar story running through all of them. That's the main point. The story will not be precise. Don't fool yourself. I watched some, you know, documentaries and they really got it a bit little off. But the point is on point, that there is a similarity running through all of them. Now, again, that's nothing wrong, because this is taken from the heavens. The heavens has the original story. The ancient Africans observed the heavens and put this story into story form. As we have learned to understand, this story form is somewhat like, again, an archetype of things to come and specific things to come. Things to come and specific things to come. So in other words, Anansi represents every man, like Asa. Asa is in every one of us, you know, Osiris Asa. But there is a specific man that will come that is the fulfillment of the Asa prophecy. That's the real Asa. That's the real Osiris. So if we want to imitate Osiris, instead of trying to imitate the hieroglyph, the green hieroglyph on the wall now, we know who the real Asa is in human form and come and fulfill the Asa story. Haile Selassie the first. I want you to get me good, eh? So when it comes to the crucified saviors again, most one would say that these are all mythological. I've heard individuals say the reason why these stories are older than the Jesus story is because the devil, in his wisdom, you know, the devil's smart, eh? Devil know plenty things. So the devil went before the birth of the Messiah and created all of them stories all over the world to distract people. And all of the crucified saviors, only that one is the real one, and the rest of them is the devil's makeup fairy tale. I said, wow, that's interesting. I wonder how long it took them to figure that one out. I'm telling you. All right. I wouldn't hold that theory at all. To me, that's when you're grabbing for a straw. Yeah. So obviously, again, the ancient Africans would have read the heavens and would have taken the knowledge of the heavens. This is very important. Eh? And they would have put it in a way where those of that time and those of time to come will be able to sit down and read, even on the level of a child, the movements of the heavens. That is why I began the program by speaking about what we spoke about in the Tiger's Nest previous night, with the dancing aspect of us as Africans. We use the dance to express what again? The movements of the heavens, the astronomical clock. By dancing, good. So even the glyphs, the hieroglyphs, everybody trying to decipher what the glyphs saying, a lot of the glyphs is the movements of the heavens. Of course, if you're going to the temple of Dendara, that is undeniable, but it's not just in Dendara alone. Even if you read the book of Gates, it's more than just the hours of the night. It's understanding the movements of the sun, going through the different gates of the zodiac belt. The book of Gates, I'm talking about, from Kemet. You comprehend. So these first scientists, the first astronomers, they were the ones that began this concept of as above, so below. We built the pyramids. So already you see there the esoteric expression of the pyramids aligned with the Orion belt and the whole story behind of it. Key. So we dealing with science. The Greeks now came in after, and they learned whatever they learned from us. And they created from our original science their little fairy tale Mercury and their fairy tale Nike. Not the shoes, Nike is a goddess, the goddess of speed. The little tick is her symbol. The Nike tick that we wear is her symbol. They created Mars, not the planet, the concept of this war god with wings on his feet. They created what morphed into Batman and Robin and these different things. Yeah. So in the same way, because remember Mars and Jupiter, that's why the planets got these names. Perseus, that's not a planet, but that's another god. These gods from the Greek and Roman mythology, Ares and all of these ones, were seen as supernatural beings. Some of them, not all, were born from virgins. Some of them came out of the mouth of fishes. Some of them dropped out of the sky. Mithra is not the only one that walked out of a rock. Look at the Buddha here. The Buddha's father is said to be a white elephant that came with a lotus in his trunk and impregnated his mother. Now, what's interesting about Mr. Buddha, the Gautama Buddha, is that he stands in between mythology and history. In fact, that's an argument many ones would have. I personally believe that the Gautama Buddha of the ancient India is a historical character. I don't think his father is an elephant, though. Obviously, there would be legend. There'll be a lot of legend behind him. But then now Krishna, then, for example, you have Krishna, that's another individual. Krishna is another individual that one's consider to be, Krishna means black, by the way, before I even go into that. In fact, we just did a program on Krishna because many ones celebrate Krishna's birthday in August, although you see it on the 25th day of December in certain writings. But for sure, I think the month is Ahamu. The 8th of Ahamu is considered the birthday of Krishna. Krishna means black. That's why you see him black here. And Krishna now, what's interesting about Krishna is that he was the 8th child. All the children before him died or stillbirth or something of the sort. And I think after him, his mother died trying to give birth. Now, that's the same thing with the emperor. That's the exact thing with the emperor, except it's the 9th child in that case. And then the 10th went out with the mother, as it relates to Emperor Haile Selassie I. So Krishna now, which is highly seen as a mythological character. Of course, the strong devotees will tell you that Krishna was a real human being. A historian most historians will never tell you Krishna is no real human being. A lot of historians will tell you Gautama Buddha is a real human being. I wonder if you follow me good. But it does not take away the fact that the Krishna character could have been a manifestation of a real high spirit. But again, legend would surround them. Just like as I speak of the building of the tiger's nest, where the monk would have flown into Bhutan on a flying tigress and established the tiger's lair, which became the tiger's nest. That's how the story goes. The people in Bhutan believe that the master monk literally fly through the sky on a flying tiger and then went there and built the tiger's nest. Now, if you ask me if I believe that story is true, I totally believe in that. I believe he went there on a flying tiger, not a literal flying tiger flying through the sky. If you read the story properly, it says the tiger that he flew on was his wife. So it's one of two things, either he married to a tiger, which I don't think that's the case, or his wife was such a strength to him. Because remember the story say he flew in on her back, the tiger, and perched on the cliff. And there they built the tiger's lair, which became the tiger's nest. He flying on a tiger with wings. And the tiger was his wife. So again, depending on which school you went to, you're going to say, what kind of fella this man here marrying a tiger? And depending on which school you went to, you may say, well, the tiger could fly. And depending on which school you went to, you may say, brothers, that was no tiger, that was a woman, his wife. But her spirit was such that she was like a ferocious tiger. I could only imagine on their way there, they had enemies that were in their way. And because of her ferocious spirit, or maybe her intellectual ability, she would have assisted him to get through the obstacles and the traps that were in his way. That is why the story said he flew on her back. She supported him. She lifted him up to carry him where he had to go. And she was seen as a tiger. That's his wife. But to me now, that history, when it is relayed, has become, it would be expressed in a form that sounds like legend. That is why I say, as Africans, we express our history, our theology, our mythology, our culture, our morals. We express all of this in song, dance, in the theater, in artwork, in the written word, in instrumentals, in the spoken word, and it's usually in esoteric, mythological, allegorical form. Family, I hope you understand this. And I hope everyone is blessed. Give thanks for your presence with us, even at this moment here. Now, what we're going to do, and I'm very happy that we are taking some time to look at the different crucified saviors. I'm gonna really bring it home in a moment, and this is a very serious reasoning here that we're putting forward, and I'm going to make sure that we, this is very serious. Family, give thanks for your presence with us. Now, Asa, again, you have one of the more outstanding figures is the Kulkukan, or the Quetzalcoatl. Now, the Quetzalcoatl, of course, is that Mayan god figure. And of course, the Quetzalcoatl is the feathered snake. The feathered snake represents the cycle of the sun. I must say again, the night of the black tiger, family. The Night of the Black Tiger goes in depths with all of this. Even Seven, the documentary Seven that we have on the YouTube, goes into depths with this, where you understand that the 11-year sunspot cycle, I repeat, the 11-year sunspot cycle of the sun is seen expressed as a snake with wings in the ancient world. In modern day time, when you map the cycle of the sun and see it on a computer graph, it appears as a snake with feathers, which means those of the ancient world already understood the science of the cycle of the sun, solar biology we call it, to the point that they would have already expressed that the Quetzalcoatl or the Kulkulkan represents the Son of God, S-O-N-S-U-N. That's where the Son of God concept comes from, it. That this individual is so highly vibrating with the frequency of the sun. That's why he's called the feathered snake or the Son of God. Tutankhamun is a clear-feathered snake. That's why he carries the bird and the snake. The Son of God. Again, Lord Pakal, clearly another feathered snake, the Gautama Buddha. And that has been expressed in the main mask of Lord Pakal, the Gautama Buddha. So you see here, even in the ancient tradition of the Mayans, the carrying of the cross. When King Emmanuel talked about Christ was crucified in Egypt, Jamaica, some people they flip and, but you can see even on a glyph that even in the Western world, they're carrying the cross. So again, you have a good idea. You have a good comprehension now of really the thread that runs through all of these stories. The thing is that ones are arguing and debating over what is a story and what is reality. I want you to listen to me, good family. I'm sure we all can agree that the 16 crucified saviors mentioned in the book, they all have a similar story. May not be precise or exact or whatever, but they all have a similar story. Outside of the 16 crucified, you have others from the same region as the 16 and all over the world. You know how many Noah stories they have? You have so many different archetypes of the same story with different gods and different names and all of these different things. And most people, especially in this modern time, would argue that everything here is mythology. Everything. Osiris didn't exist, and Horus is mythology, and the Jesus story is a make-up stuff, and this other one is allegory, and this other one is esoteric. We're not saying this in anger, I'm just showing you what the consensus really is. How many people really believe in Quetzalcoatl? At least the way that it's expressed on the man's glyph. How many really believe in Perseus? Most ones that interconnect don't really think that Osiris was a living one. Only some believe Osiris was an ancient king, and this is how he is remembered. All of that could be true, obviously. But I'm getting to a key point. Haile Selassie the first. Before I go to the depths of this, is there anyone that would bring an argument to the table to say that Haile Selassie the first is a mythological character. Man, that's what you're saying, Russ. What kind of statement that? Who gonna say Haile Selassie? Everybody know Haile Selassie real. Oh, okay. Fair enough. I'm glad you said that. Good. Haile Selassie is the fulfillment of all them crucified saviors and much more. Haile Selassie is the fulfillment of the movement of the astronomical clock, the constellation of Cephas that will take over the North Pole in a few hundred years. That procession has already begun with the coronation of Haile Selassie I, the cosmic Ethiopian king. I know everyone would have sat in on the master of ceremonies. I know we all comprehend by now that, yeah, the Asa story does align with Haile Selassie I, but it's not just Asa alone. Check out the episode we did on Kepara. How many of us have sat down and watched a Pedimek, the lion-headed god? And it's not just about a picture with a, you know what I mean, a man with a lion head. You know. When you detail the story, who is a Pedimek? The god that goes to the front of the wall, who is a Pedimek? The god that has the triple crown, who is a Pedimek? The husband of Isis, a Pedimek is the lionized Asar. Asar, the same Asar or Osiris, top god, who became a man at the age of 13. That's Haile Selassie, the Deshman. And Asar was born in Ethiopia, by the way. Check the original stories. I mean, everything was born in Ethiopia as far as the gods, not in Egypt as such. Asar, we know it. Asar specifically at the coronation, 72 individuals came and paid homage to him, supposedly at this banquet, same coronation, and put Asar in the coffin. He fit the coffin. Interesting. In the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, they have the coffer that they say belonged to Khufu. Interesting. It fits the Ark of the Covenant, according to the description in the Bible, would fit perfectly in that coffer in the king's chamber that belonged to Khufu, same chamber that aligns with Orion's belt. Yeah. Interestingly, that the height of Haile Selassie is the length of the Ark of the Covenant. So Haile Selassie would fit perfectly in that same coffer if he was to, you know, go and take a little rest in there. Yeah. Remember, them things ain't graves, eh? Them things ain't no tomb for nobody, so it's all right, don't lose it. Yeah, but he could fit perfectly because he's the same length of the Ark. We did the Ark program too. You could check it right here on YouTube. And you could place the Ark inside of perfectly the coffer of Khufu. And they said that all of them tried to fit in the coffin at Osiris's banquet. Some translations say chest. And then when Osiris went in the chest, they said, oh, perfect, bravo, bravo, shut the door. And they went and threw it in the river. Afterwards, when they went back, they chopped him up into 16 pieces. Yeah. Now, what I'm saying, even before we go to the depths again, especially to those as Rastafari, those of us as Rastafari, and everyone in general too. Haile Selassie, although many of us would have made him a religious character, Haile Selassie is not just a historical individual, but one that history tries to erase. It appears as if history just give up because how Rastafari has been pumping Haile Selassie and Marcus Garvey these decades now. The history of Haile Selassie is such that it doesn't need anything added to it to be what it is. In fact, all of the other stuff we talk about, from Bible to anything else, stars to, and try to equate it to the king, is making all of that look good. When you say Haile Selassie is God, you're giving God plenty props. Okay. So our Negus Haile Selassie historically, when we understand geopolitics again of that day, very important. We're dealing with understanding the Battle of Adwa, Menelik II. Very key in chronicling this. Menelik II, Empress Taitu, Ras Mokenen, Ras Alulu, and other great warriors that stood up on the battlefield, Battle of Adwa, licking down Italy, 1896, 1st of March. That paved the way for a strong Pan-African movement internationally. At that time, Europe was kind of sealing up in colonializing the rest of Africa. The year before Haile Selassie was coronated, the Vatican officially became a city-state, the 1929. That was the year when the Pope officially became what they consider an absolute ruler. Although history says that Haile Selassie was the last absolute ruler in the world. Pope ain't no absolute ruler. You think the Pope could have stopped Mussolini from invading Ethiopia if he wanted to? No, he ain't no absolute ruler. Although the king would have spread his power through the parliament via constitution, he was the absolute ruler. So when they made the Vatican this city-state, this is symbolic of Revelation, showing you the dragon stood before the woman to devour the man-child that was born, that will be born with the rod of iron to rule the nations. The year before the coronation, 1930. And that is why after the coronation, the same Italy, the same Rome, the same Vatican would have attacked Ethiopia in 1935, while this would be the start of the Ethiopian-Italian War, where of course we know what took place when Mussolini and Italy, members of the League of Nations, would have attacked Haile Selassie in Ethiopia, members of the League of Nations. Remember, it was because of the shrewdness of the emperor why Ethiopia was placed in the League of Nations from the early 1920s, 1922-23, the king rallying Ethiopia into the League of Nations. The emperor made his European trip not too long after that to let them know, well, yeah, the boss is here. And of course, made diplomatic links, etc., etc. So you see, the king already was playing chess with these people here. So when Mussolini attacked Ethiopia, the king was really on good diplomatic stance to even address this body, this so-called august body of individuals that were brought together to manage the affairs of the planet. I'm talking of the League of European Nations. Because you got to keep in mind, you know, that's how the story goes. You know, that's how it began. Other nations came in, Mexico and other, you know, Latin American nations, but this was really a European body. Just like you have the G7 and the G8 and These were the G's. They know who they want in the Security Council. At that time, China was on the problems. Japan was attacking China at that time. China didn't have no say at that time. So the European nations really banded together to continue their colonial endeavors, really, because that is what was going on. All of Africa was colonialized. All of these members in the League of Nations had African colonies. Yeah. Ethiopia was the only free one. That is why the League of Nations really turned their back on the king. That's really what happened. So when the emperor went and addressed the League of Nations in 36 again, 1936, on the 30th day of June, we all know that that was the speech. That was the moment. That was the judgment of the Lord. You see, the Bible speaks about the judgment of the Lord, unless you're looking for something fanciful. That was the judgment of the Lord. We all know that that was the fulfillment of the scripture. I'm talking about the book of Zephaniah chapter 3, that says, wait on me, saith the Lord. Wait on me, saith the Lord, until I rise up to the prey, and I shall pour out my wrath and indignation. This is where it says that I shall bring unto the people a pure language, so that they can call upon the name of the Lord from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, the daughter of my dispersed, my suppliant. I mean, this is one of them scriptures that is so precise. Here you have the Lord say he gonna gather nations together. Again, depending on which school you went to. The Lord gathering all the nations together means that there's a voice coming out of the cloud. And everybody on earth standing up and looking up and say, yeah, the Lord is talking. No, that will never happen. This is the body known as the League of Nations. After World War I, this was designed to keep peace on earth. Again, it was really a clique of the colonializers. The emperor walked into the trap and disarmed them. That's really what it was. Watch the documentaries. After the emperor's speech, the BBC reporter said the League was dead. What answer am I to take back to my people? The reporter says there was none, and there could not be none. The League was dead. That's how the League of Nations came to an end, you know. The League of Nations is the United Nations of that day, you know. The League of Nations crashed when Haile Selassie spoke to them. From that moment, it was until all the members in the League of Nations started to fight one another. And the speech that the king gave, it's in the autobiography of the emperor. This is part 2, but it's in part 1. The autobiography of Emperor Haile Selassie I. The speech where he clearly, laid out his concerns. Do we understand really what that war was all about? Do we really understand? That's why we need to check a pediment. Do we comprehend how the emperor was on the front line of the battlefield for months? Not from the palace, you know. The emperor left the palace. The emperor was not at the palace for this war. He was on the battlefield. He was in tents like everyone else, in caves, behind Gatling guns and anti-aircraft guns. That's what the emperor was doing. He get damage on the field, mustard gas, flamethrower. Haile Selassie went through all of that. Not because he's so well-dressed and neat. That's the king. And he decided to, as he said, after losing the battle on the ground, we decided to take up the political battle. That's his words, the emperor. Maybe I'm paraphrasing. And that is how he came to the League of Nations now. Not to beg nobody for nothing, to plead. Joel chapter 3 say, and he shall plead, he shall come down in the valley of Jehoshaphat, 3 or 2, one of those chapters. He shall come down in the valley of Jehoshaphat and plead for his people. Keep in mind, this League of Nations stuff is protocols, it's constitution, it's laws. So as a member of the League of Nations, another member of the League of Nations not supposed to just run on you and just try to take you over. And if that was to happen, all the other members supposed to say, all right, kick him out. That's it. But if you comprehend, again, that's why we need to read the autobiography of the king. They prolonged the issue. They were supposed to assist Ethiopia with machinery, with guns, with not just armory, but with help, with people, with soldiers. All of that was supposed to be a part of the deal. That's how the story goes. When an aggressor rises up, we cut him off, and if he still continues, we come and help those who are the victor. Nothing like that happened, because the European nations were just plotting behind the scenes to take over this last country that is a thorn in our side, that refused to give up and get colonialized. And to make it worse, they have an emperor. Who is them? All them African empires that you all destroyed had emperors too, eh? So the emperor, after the speech, we all know, you know, that Mussolini eventually was destroyed through, again, shrewd. Because when the emperor returned to Ethiopia, the emperor was on the battlefield on a different level. This time he was more so as the strategist. Of course, that's what he was before. But that war, the battle before he went to Europe, remember, that was a battle that had very little equipment, even to connect with the different factions of the army all over Ethiopia. As he himself would say, message would take days back and forth. And he, the emperor, had to be on the battlefield strictly. But when he returned, he came back with thousands of soldiers. The British Army, the Allies, France, soldiers from South Africa, even the colonial, remember these are colonial masters, you know. They have colonies, Britain, France, all of these ones who came together as the Allies now to take out Germany and Italy. So they got their Kenyan soldiers, the Ugandan soldiers, all them sort of people came into Ethiopia. So the emperor himself, don't make them fool you with this historical lie about Britain came to save Haile Selassie. You crazy. You need to check history properly. You ever see anywhere in history? Number one, you got to respect Haile Selassie. As much as the world's sympathy was with him, very few people expected him to return. You just got to study what was taking place at the time, the terror that was coming down on the Ethiopians, and the whole League of Nations turning their back on Ethiopia. And the people in England, oh, he's so dignified. Oh, it's so sad oh, Mussolini shouldn't have done it. Oh, so much courage. If he could just get a little, oh. But the emperor was shrewd. And the emperor knew how to play for time. And the emperor understood prophecy. So when Hitler and Mussolini, Hitler specifically, from the moment he took Austria and Poland, people that supported him and Mussolini, as they say, the world woke up. So then what really happened on a geopolitical level is that Ethiopia became a part of the Allies. That's all it was. And the Allies said, let's free Ethiopia first. That's just the historical truth. You don't have to spice it up. Although this is the universal spice. Just tell the story as it is. And it is the emperor, not Colonel, what was the colonel name? Wingate or none of these fellas. Cunningham. Colonel Cunningham and the other colonels. It was none of these generals that were in charge of this war. Haile Selassie was the field marshal general of the war that drove out Italy. So in other words, he was not, at least from my understanding, he was not behind the machinery as he was before. But he didn't have to be. There were so many soldiers that came in with him. It's like if he came in with the world to run out Mussolini. All he had to do was say, yeah, Cunningham, tell your fellas to go down there. But Emperor, I think, Cunningham, have you ever been down there? Well, no. Tell your fellas to go down there. And Wingate, yes, Your Majesty, the brigade at 3 o'clock, send them around the mountain. Your Majesty, that's all. That's what happened when the king returned. So you can see the difference, on the battlefield before he left and on the battlefield when he returned. Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful understanding. Now, what I'm showing you, family, is that, again, that history involves all of us. Because if Mussolini and Italy would have colonialized Africa, Ethiopia, all Africa would have been gone. There's no way I would be here talking to you today. I mean, the whole story would have been totally different. That's why Haile Selassie would have saved us all. Even them that tried to destroy him. If it wasn't for him, they would have done destroy themselves long time. You talk about global warming, man, the planet would have done be on fire. If the God of gods didn't stop these maniacs. Look at the world after World War II. And Europe rebuilt itself. And, everybody happy and man gone to the moon and all kind of things they say at Disney World. There's a happy world and people flying here and there. That could never have existed. You better believe that. If Mussolini would have taken over Ethiopia. People don't comprehend what a key figure Haile Selassie is, in this historical narrative that we speak of. Telling you, brother. Thanks to the King of Kings. So without trying to, prove to you that Haile Selassie is Atlas. Atlas is seen, Atlas is mythology, by the way. Atlas is seen carrying the globe, the universe in a globe form. That's why sometimes they will say Atlas is carrying the world on his back. Haile Selassie is Atlas. In that exile period, Haile Selassie was carrying, just like you see the statue of Atlas, the world on his back. Again, if you observe a documentary like Footsteps of Haile Selassie, Footsteps of the Emperor, that for sure, that documentary homes in on the grief and the weight that Emperor Haile Selassie I carried during that moment in exile, in Bath, Dip your robe in the blood of the Lamb, brother, in the bath. Because you see that moment there? That represents Christ in the Amenta. When you see Christ was crucified and he went into the underworld to go and take away the key of hell from Satan, that was when the emperor went into exile. So the emperor's exile for 5 years is symbolic of the 5 bleeding wounds that all the crucified saviors bore, not just what Christ alone bore, all of them, all the crucified saviors bear 5 bleeding wounds. Asa, follow me in the family, Asa or Osiris went into the underworld for 5 years. Now Haile Selassie, again, it is on the 5th of May 36. Officially, history would say that Italy took over Ethiopia. That's what they say. Just quickly, fam. This is just a quick point. Realistically, Italy would have taken some level of control over Addis Ababa. If you read your history properly, the vast majority of Ethiopia was under Ethiopian control. But you mean to say in the 3.5 years that Italy had Ethiopia, there was no mass movement at all of any Italians coming into Ethiopia? I don't even think anybody came. Why not? Because the war was still going on. When the British take over Kenya, and they have Kenya, you know, is a heap of British people coming, you know. When they take over Australia, that's how Australia got populated. They opened the prisons in England and sent people to Australia. All these countries, they just open prisons or send sailors, all kind of people, and say, hey, go down there. We took over that country. So if they took over Ethiopia, where are the videos? Where is the history of hundreds of Italians, not even thousands, just hundreds, leaving Italy to set up shop in Ethiopia? They couldn't do that. They're mad. And this war and the Ethiopians jumping out of the tree every day and chopping off Italians' head. No, man, you can't come as yet. That is to show you that Italy did not really conquer Ethiopia as how even history wants you to believe. They caught Addis Ababa. That was Mussolini's pretext, that since they captured the city, the country belonged to them. Haile Selassie said, I have moved the capital to Gore, and Ras Imru is acting in my stead. Thanks to Ras Imru, brother. So when the emperor took back the throne on the 5th of May, 1941, that's exactly, now, I mean, you can't get away from this. That's exactly 5 years from the day he left. The 5th month and the 5th day. And here, listen to this, you know, this is how you tighten it. Why did he leave? It's not just about the 5th of May to the 5th of May, 5 years apart. That's very key. But it is what took place in between these 2 dates that solidify my point. This is where he left Ethiopia, you know, the highest region, to go to England, the lowest region, to go to Geneva, up in the snow, to plead to the nations to at least respect the protocols and treaties that we all signed several years ago. That's all. And they say, yeah, man, we're going to look into that. And they just have the king waiting, and planning till their league crumbled to nothing. But during that time, heavy sufferation. Even the emperor, keep in mind, you know, when the emperor gave the speech in 1937 to BBC, he was speaking with a fractured knee. The emperor went into a taxi to go to BBC, and the taxi man get in an accident. And the emperor fractured his knee. And the emperor still went and gave the speech at BBC. And you can't find no picture of the emperor limping out. The emperor still smooth, even though his knee fractured. That's how perfect the God Amun-Ra is in his perfection of meditation, in the meditation tree of life, meditational system. And he go and give the speech, and hear what the king say in the speech. It was the 25th day of December, Christmas Day. And the emperor say, on this day, I'm paraphrasing, it's in the book too, you know. On this day, should try to find that and just read it for you, but I know it still, I have the point. On this day, many of us are celebrating the birthday of our Lord and Savior. But the king goes on to say, many of us tend to forget the pain that he had to bear for the salvation of all of us. That is serious. Remember at that time, you know, the emperor was bearing pain. He just fractured his knee in a taxi. All of that means the cross. Taxi is cross. Tax alone is a cross. The T, the ta, the TA ta is a cross. The X obviously is a cross. Taxi is a cross. And the king go into a taxi. I mean, that's Haile Selassie, the emperor. You know, the emperor never catch a taxi in his life, eh? And the emperor reached to a level where he have to go in a buggy and a wagon and a taxi. And the taxi man go and lick up something. And the emperor, imagine that. Our God and king fracture his knee. And man begging him to go to the hospital, and the emperor say, hey, we late for the BBC interview. What? Here you go. Let's go. When the emperor walking up the stairs, the man, what? Like the knee all right, man. I'm in a lot of pain. Yeah, man, our perfect God. And then he gave the speech. And what did the speech say? At this time of the birthday of our Lord and Savior, many of us tend to forget. He's talking about himself. Allegory. Many of us tend to forget. I could imagine how he felt. The pain that he had to bear. And that fractured knee that the king had to bear was just a symbol of what he really bearing. Even if he didn't feel a pain like something dig him, the pain that he carrying, the weight he carrying, that knee fracture was just a symbol of what he really carrying. That's why he could just walk that off, because he feeling more pain than that. He feeling much more pain than that. That's a real God there, I tell you. So the point here is, you see, I know a lot of us already understand the divinity of Haile Selassie. But then when you understand the value of his presence, especially the value of that moment there, the 5th of May to the 5th of May, and then again now his resurrection, because that's what happened. He resurrected from the underworld, just like Osiris, because Osiris took 5 years to resurrect. And then remember, when Osiris resurrected, he became the constellation of Sahu. And that whole story is why they erect this thing called the obelisk, the Teken. The Teken or the obelisk is Osiris's penis, his phallic, that was lost. And when Sahu, when Asa, pardon me, resurrected, he became Sahu, which is the Orion constellation. And that is where they started to erect the Teken as the phallic of Asa. And the Teken, or the obelisk that's at the UN office in New York, was presented by Haile Selassie. Now hear this. He didn't just present it any old time. Haile Selassie spoke to the UN in 1963. Remember, he spoke to the League of Nations in 1936, 30th of June. I think we all know He's the only head of state to have ever spoken to the League of Nations. The whole, in all its existence, I think about 19 or so years, he's the only head of state to speak to them. Everybody else is a representative. So when he spoke to the United Nations now, which obviously replaced the League of Nations, Haile Selassie has gone down on record, and this cannot change, as the only, somebody else can't come and do it. It can't happen. He is the only head of state to have addressed both the League of Nations and the United Nations. Now, you see, if Haile Selassie was just a regular man, I wouldn't even think, maybe you could say, man, that's just a coincidence. But when you really understand, can't we see how many prophecies Haile Selassie fulfilled from Bible alone? And then when you just observe him on the world stage and these little simple things here, he's the only head of state to address the League of Nations and the United Nations. Wow. That means he's Earth's rightful ruler. And when he addressed the United Nations, that was the symbol of Asar or Osiris becoming Sahu or Orion. Do you know why? Because Orion, the constellation, has the celestial equator running right through its belt. That means half of Osiris, or pardon me, half of Orion, the stars now, the constellation, half of Orion, or Sahu, is on the northern celestial heavens, and the other half is on the southern celestial heavens. Just like the Earth has an equator and you have north and south hemisphere. So Orion or Sahu is a big constellation like a man, but half of the man is above the equator of the sky. The sky has an equator too, celestial equator, and half is below. Family should check the website. I'm coming back to this here. And enroll in our ancient astronomy course. Yeah, I think that believe, if you are serious of this, about this kind of knowledge, I mean, it's up to you, but if you are serious about this sort of knowledge, believe, ancient astronomy course. So what Haile Selassie did now, when he came to speak at the United Nations, just before he fulfilled that prophecy, because when he came to New York, he didn't speak at the United Nations yet. What if you follow me? He done speak at the League of Nations several 30-something years ago, or whatever it was. And the League of Nations mash up. The United Nations formed in 45, and he, Haile Selassie, is one of the chief draftsmen of the United Nations Charter. Imagine that. So he come now to New York and he gonna speak at the United Nations. And when he speak, that will make him the only head of state to speak to both. But just before he speak, he called the Secretary General. Hey, Utan, come here. Yes, Your Majesty. You know what this is? That's the phallic of Asar. Yeah, put it in the window. I'm ready to speak anytime you are ready. Now think. Those are you, eh? I know sometimes I just get a little fiery, but come on, we're family, right? You're my brother, you're my sister, right? Those of you who like to pretend like you're burning fire on this and you're burning fire in Egypt and you're burning fire and all kind of things. I think we need to mature and put pride away. Some of us is just a little pride. We have our religion as this badge of honor, and especially if we big in it, so we ashamed to say, hey, I need to look at this a different way. Come on. We all have to say that at some time. I mean, those of you who have followed I for these years, look, I myself would have looked at things in a different way. It's called growth. So if you hail Haile Selassie as much as you say, why would he bring this pagan symbol? The obelisk, Osiris's phallic. Why would he bring Osiris phallic? when he's going to speak to the United Nations. And what's the importance of Osiris Phallic? When did we start to erect Osiris Phallic? When Osiris went up into the heavens to become Orion. That's when they started to erect this. What's important about Orion? He stands on both sides of the heavens. Haile Selassie addressed the both bodies that rule the world. I mean, one man addressed the both bodies that did rule the world. Who is this one man? The Emperor of Ethiopia. And just before he addressed the second body to fulfill the prophecy that he addressed them both, he gave the head of the body, Secretary General Utan, Osiris Phallic. Can't you see that that's the allegory? That's why you, listen, we have to be serious about this, you know. That's the allegory of Osiris being fulfilled in front of our eyes in history. This is why I'm saying Haile Selassie represents, he is the fulfillment of the Asa, the Heru, the Apedimet, the Jesus Christ in the Bible, the Moses, the Aaron, the Abraham, the whole works in the allegorical, esoteric expressions has been fulfilled. The stars, the movements of the heavens, Jupiter, the Lord of the planets, all of this stuff can be mathematically, biologically, chemically, physically, astronomically, anthropologically. All of these science can be used as we would have used them several times to point, bam, Emperor Haile Selassie I. I want to show you quickly. Gonna soon see you. Now, this book, I'm sure, I hope many of you have a copy of this book. This is the book, The Heavens Declare the Glory. Rastafari and the Cosmos. This was prepared by me several years ago. Do you want a copy of the book if you don't have a copy? You do? Okay, I'm glad you said that. All you have to do is visit our website, priestisaacinstitute.com. Those of you who are on the YouTube as well too, the link will be in the description below, where you could just go below and press it, and you go straight to the website. Now, I just want to read something quickly here from The Heavens Declare. And I must say a good chunk of maybe what we would be speaking of this evening, you get a good understanding from The Heavens Declare the Glory. And of course, we have a brand new book out as well, The Rudiments of Astronomy. But I mean, I wouldn't even go into that right now. Some other time we could speak about that. All right. I just want to read this for you quickly. And again, this is from the myth of Osiris and Isis and Seth. And just quickly, let me see, where should I start from just to highlight the whole aspect? Okay. Seth either drowned or killed Osiris. The story is often said to include a beautiful chest tailor-made to Osiris's size. Seth ordered the creation of the chest and then invited his brother to a banquet. During the feast, he offered the remarkable chest to anyone who could fit inside it. That's the chest I was talking about earlier. Good. All of this is obviously mythology. Very good. Everyone tried, but only Osiris or Asa fit inside. The moment Osiris lay down in the chest, Seth nailed the lid closed. Then he sealed the chest with molten lead and threw it along with his brother, that's Osiris, into the Nile. The chest, which some say inspired the idea of the Egyptian sarcophagi, was carried out to the sea and then came to rest in a tamarisk tree growing near Byblos in Phoenicia. The tree grew around the god in the coffin, and he remained there until he died. So that's how that happened, according to this story. The local king later decided he liked the same tree, and with no knowledge of Osiris's body, Asar's body inside, had it turned into a column for his palace. But Set encountered Osiris's body while he was out hunting one day to prevent his brother from gaining the burial he deserved. The enraged Set cut Osiris's body into various pieces. So this is where the cut into pieces happened, with different numbers according to the text. Hear that? With differing numbers according to the text. 14, half of a lunar month, or 16, the ideal height of a rise in the water level in cubits. Now, why I am so sure that the 16 relates to Haile Selassie, even as Brother Saifa was showing us the rising of the Nile Indian nation. And of course, we all know that happens around the time of Haile Selassie's Earth Day. So with the rising of the Nile, in whatever esoteric vibration the ancient ones would have had, that is where the story has Osiris being cut into 16 pieces. Now, this is very important. So, again, Osiris is Haile Selassie, straight up. This great god Asar is Emperor Haile Selassie the first. Born in Ethiopia, became a man at 30, was coronated, and 72 people came to his coronation. Them same 72, because it's the same nations that came to the coronation were the same people in the League of Nations that turned their back on the king, eh? All right. The nations, maybe not the exact people, but the nations, their representatives. All right. And when they did that, they chopping up into 16 pieces. But he resurrected in 5 years. That's Haile Selassie. Now, you would have heard me say several times that the 16 pieces that they chop the Osiris into, that they chop the king into, represents Article 16. I'm sure you would have heard me mention that. And Article 16 basically says that any time an individual, it's right here in the King's autobiography, anytime an individual that is a member of the League of Nations, if they were to attack another member of the League of Nations, the rest of the League of Nations just back off, and they were supposed to sever, that's the words used right here, sever themselves from the miscreant or the villain and support the victim. That's Article 60. Now, when you read this story, when you read the events, historical events, it was Article 16 more than anything else that held back the progress of Ethiopia advancing in the war. So if you believe in numerology, you can see that it was Article 16 that betrayed the cause. Keep it in mind how the emperor would have taken time to make sure Ethiopia was up to standard, even as Rastafari, to bring it into the League of Nations so that it had what? Collective security. And now that he needed that collective security, the League of Nations said they can't help. But Article 16 said that you're supposed to help. Now we can't help. So Article 16 represents the 16 pieces that Osiris was cut up into. Now, right now, nobody can deny nothing I say here. Osiris was born in Ethiopia. Osiris is the king of kings. Osiris became a man at 30. Osiris was coronated and 72 individuals came to this coronation. I mean, Osiris went into the underworld for exactly 5 years. Osiris was chopped into 16 pieces. Osiris is Haile Selassie. The myth of Osiris, the allegory of Osiris has been fulfilled, manifested, crystallized in Emperor Haile Selassie I. Very good. Now, I'm going to read here for you from My Life and Ethiopia's Progress, Volume 2, Addis Ababa, 1966. And it says here, Chapter 1, the debate and the resolution at Geneva, Mussolini's speech against the covenant of the League of Nations, the decision to make our resident at Bath the administration of our government from Gore. These are the titles and subtitles of this chapter. I'm going to read the first paragraph here. We were present at the 16th General Assembly of the League of Nations on Sene 23rd, which is the 1928, which is the 30th of June, 1936, to explain the fascist invasion of our country and the atrocities perpetrated on the people. The next day, Sene 24th, which is the 1st of July, while the assembly continued its deliberation, all the small nations that had placed confidence in the protection of the League was supposed to provide, the protection that the League was supposed to provide were displeased at the backsliding exhibited in the treatment of Ethiopia's case. And some delegates openly criticized the League for deserting its fundamental objective. All right, good. I'm just going to skip a few paragraphs to read a few things before we return to this discussion. This says here, the Soviet envoy, Monsieur Maxim Litvinov, all right, criticized the League for failing to impose sanctions soon after Ethiopia and Italy found themselves in conflict and before the situation escalated into serious trouble. He added that a few countries had imposed the proposed sanctions, which is true, but with no visible result, since the League had earned the confidence of even non-member countries. Had the sanctions been strong from the outset, any aggressor would have been deterred. I just want the family to understand what is taking place on the ground here. However, the handling of the sanctions were not comprehensive enough and created the present problem. He reminded all member countries that even now, in view of Article 16, they should realize the obligations by which they were bound, and beyond imposing sanctions, should provide military assistance. That's what the Russian man's saying. But let's just be clear here. After a while, everybody turned their back on Ethiopia, all what they say here. So let's just understand that. Everyone. Now, let me just read one more thing. The emperor says here in a statement that he made, since in accordance to Article 16 of the Charter of the League of Nations, Ethiopia was entitled to receive assistance. Let the Assembly, in consultation with the Finance Committee of the League and in agreement with the capacity which the Ethiopian government claims to have, support and approve a loan of £10 million to Ethiopia under the guarantee of member states. All right, fair enough. So in the book, the autobiography of the emperor, he is clearly highlighting the point that it is Article 16 that is where the betrayal came. The other delegates that spoke at that time, because after a while, these fellas start to dress back. They even start to vote against Ethiopia or abstain. Only Ethiopia was voting for itself after a while. So you could imagine, all abandoned Ethiopia. But at this point, the day after the king's speech, because he gave the speech the day before. So the day after his speech, it was like, yeah, man, what? We are touched. Everybody was touched. We need to respect Article what? 16. Let's not forget Article what? 16. Even the emperor said, man, y'all need to check Article what? 16. Osiris, Asa, was cut into 16 pieces, dashed in the river, but eventually put back together and resurrected. That's why when he went to Secretary General Utan of the United Nations, he gave him Asa's phallic, Osiris's penis. Because according to the story, when Osiris was cut into 16 pieces, the catfish swallowed the phallic. That is why the phallic was erected after Osiris became Orion. And I'm telling you, Haile Selassie as Osiris, he became Orion in 1963 when he spoke to the United Nations. How do I know he became Orion? Because we study astronomy. Orion is on both sides of the heavens. Haile Selassie became Orion when he spoke to both sides of the heavens. Remember, the United Nations is in the West. The League of Nations was in Europe. He addressed them both, Earth's rightful ruler. And before he addressed them, he gave them the phallic. Now, do you remember the first statement we read? The first words that we read from the king. The king said, we were present at the 16th General Assembly of the League of Nations. When the emperor spoke to the League of Nations, this was the 16th. Hear me, no man. This was the 16th, not Article 16, you know, we passed that. When the emperor, this famous speech that crashed the League of Nations, that brought them to nothing, was the 16th General Assembly of this august body. So we see the number 16 appear again. Osiris chopped up into 16 pieces. Article 16 is what prolonged the war in Ethiopia. And this prophetic judgment that the king gave to the League of Nations was the 16th time that them killers gathering together. Wow. What's so mystic about this 16? Because the Haile Selassie I is the fulfillment of all 16 crucified saviors. Remember, call all 16 crucified saviors and tell me which one of them is a real human being. And anyone you pick out, decisively prove it. Man, you're gonna get argument, you know. Somebody gonna say, no, he never exists. Who? Prophet Muhammad never exists, although he's not one of the 16 crucified saviors. But my point is, Haile Selassie was born on the 23rd day of July, 1892. His father's name was Ras Mokenin. He was no white elephant with no lotus in his mouth. Haile Selassie was not born from a rock. And no, he did not die and come back to life. All of that is symbolic of the literal history that he would come and fulfill. That is why the 16 crucified saviors are saviors. Because of their tribulation, they would have brought a betterment to the people that are around them. Because of their tribulation, they carried their people on their back, and that is what Haile Selassie came and fulfilled. So he is the Rock of Ages. He is the fulfillment of all times. Emperor Haile Selassie the first. Give thanks. Family, before you leave the arena, just press the thumbs up button for us. I give thanks and enough appreciation for all those who are with us, and give thanks continually for all those who would have shared the link and all those who would have contributed in whatever way and form. We give thanks continually for the life giver and the keeper of life. Remember, this is an exclusively Radio Anu international radio program, and I'm inviting everyone to continue to stay tuned to Radio Anu. All you got to do is press the link in the description below, and it will carry you straight to Radio Anu, where we have much more reasoning and much more programming and much more Tiger's Nest that is going to carry us way into the evening. So as we seal, family, don't look around and wonder, what am I going to do next? What to watch, what to play, where to go? Go to Radio Anu, the international flavor, the universal spice. Give thanks. Of course, as we always say, if you know your Bible and you do not know your history, the knowledge of your Bible will become a mystery. And you don't know, it takes some real eyes to realize the real lies that are amongst us. Give thanks continually, family. And of course, again, looking forward to your presence right here in the Tiger's Nest. It is fully blessed. Rastafari.
Are you searching for unique handmade Black cultural crafts, t-shirts, and accessories? Look no further. Introducing your ultimate destination for the vibrant and captivating creations that celebrate Rastafari and African culture. At Black Dominion, we bring you a curated collection of exquisitely designed, crafted products honoring the rich heritage of Rastafari, Ethiopia, and the Black diaspora. With our user-friendly website, shopping is a breeze. We ship worldwide, bringing Black culture to every corner of the globe. Visit www.blackdominion.shop today and start exploring the incredible range of handmade Rastafari and Black culture. Find your inspiration, embrace your roots, and stand